What is going on, everybody? What is going on? I know. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since I've been on here doing a LinkedIn Live, YouTube, Facebook. But yeah, it's me, Lawrence Henderson. We're back with another Hot Takes episode. And I came bearing gifts. I brought the gift of Dr. Mary Ritz. What's going on, Mary?
What's going on, Lawrence? I am well. I'm excited to be here. I've been waiting for this, Lawrence. Why did it take so long?
I have zero clue why it took us this long. You want to know why it took us this long? Because we've been working.
Yeah, no,
We've
yeah,
been working, doing all the leadership things we've been doing,
yeah,
all of the organizational development things we've been
mhm,
coaching,
yes,
training,
yes,
speaking, all
yes,
those good things. But today is all about you and customer centricity in
yeah,
all of its glory and essence. But we ain't gonna get into that yet.
yeah.
Dr. Mary, tell people who you are, where you are, and we'll go from there.
Okay, good. Thank you so much, Lawrence, for having me. So, I am the president and owner of a company called Aumenta International. I'm based in Metro Atlanta. So, what does Aumenta International do? We are a professional and development organization that focuses on three main areas: customer centricity transformation, and leadership development and team development. And the way that we engage with our audience is really consulting, training, speaking, coaching, masterminds, like you would know, Lawrence, right? And we've had the privilege of working in 8 different countries, so a lot of international experience. We work with small, medium to big organizations, nonprofit, profit making. It's really about helping leaders and organizations tap into their power and leverage their strengths so that they can make the difference that they want to make in the world. So that's what we do. We just empower people to be the best that they can be. That's how Mentor International.
I love it. I love it. And the reason why, again, y'all, if you're new to the live and new to the podcast, we say HOT as an acronym, and it's leading with humility, openness, and transparency. And from the first time I met Dr. Mary, I literally was like, she is my sister from another mister. It was just a vibe, y'all. Y'all
Mhm.
know when you're in the presence of greatness and you're like, I want to be hanging out with Dr. Mary more often. And it's not even just the all of the massive education background and just expertise that she has. It's just her presence. Her presence is just one of those ones that just ground you as a person, that you just want to sit and you just want to glean and you just want to just tap in. And I've been absolutely felt honored and humbled to just learn and just watch. And she's also one of those people. The humility of her allows you just to be another professional in her space with her, and allows this beautiful thing to happen when it comes to just training and facilitating. So I just like to say openly and live, thank you, Dr. Mary, for just being you.
Oh, thank you, Lawrence. And I must also say, those things that you say about me are exactly the same things that you have. I mean, Lawrence, you know how much I think of you.
Mhm. I
There's
appreciate that.
humility, there's intelligence, there is thought provoking, there's innovation, there's pushing one another in just a it's a great relationship that we have, and I'm really thankful that we have this relationship and we've maintained it. We hit it off when we first met, and
Yeah.
here we are a couple of years later. We've collaborated and we continue to collaborate. So I'm just as inspired as you are by my story and by my presence.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And y'all, Dr. Mary, when I first met her, I thought she was making up this topic of customer centricity. I had never heard it in my life. I was like, Lord, I said, what is customer centricity? What is this?
Yeah.
But once I got into it, I was like, customer centricity. And
Mhm.
so though for people who are that may be a new phrase to them, it's not a new topic. Customer centricity is tried, true, research, all the rest of that. But
Mhm.
why customer centricity for you, Dr. Mary?
Oh, wow, that's a long story, Lawrence. And you're right. A lot of people think it's a concept. it's a concept. It's too theoretical. It's too philosophical. But we'll break it down shortly. But let me tell you just a short story of how I got into it. My first love was really customer service. All right. As a child growing up in Zimbabwe, I would go and visit, stores, supermarkets, transact, buy and transact as a little girl, and come back home and ask my older sister and say, why are we being treated so badly if we are paying the dollar for the services? I mean, I did not articulate customer service at that time, but it was customer service. So fast forward, as I started my business in South Africa, 2008, I thought, what, I'm going to go with customer service. That's been in my DNA from childhood. I'd worked at some great organizations that their DNA was customer service. Then when I applied for my PhD, I had the privilege of meeting a guy, the late Doug Leather, who I said, what, Doug, I'd love to really study further into customer centricity. And he says, no, but there's more. There's customer centricity, Mary. Customer service is an element of customer centricity. And I said, what is that? So if I can define it, Lawrence, it looks at a business from the inside, from the outside in. And the whole entire engine of the organization works in collaboration and integration in servicing the customer. So whatever decisions that we make at a product level or a service level, at innovation, leadership level, the people we hire, the processes we engage, the procedures we engage, they all ask the question, how are we going to impact the customer? So therefore, the customer is really the driver of our business, so to speak. So that's what customer centricity is. It's not one thing. It's the entire business engine that works in collaboration and integration. Then it says, we want to build value or create value, not only for the shareholder or for the organization, but we want to create value for both the customer and the organization and the stakeholders that also do business with them. That's customer centricity.
Yeah. And I love the connected story, right? Because when I first was learning about it with you, and you were describing the elements of customer centricity, and I love the picture of the engine, right?
Yes.
The engine is made up of multi-functioning parts that run the car, right? And if you think about your business and you think about your profession as that engine, are all the parts doing what they're supposed to be doing to move you, the car, forward?
Yes.
And so when you think about it, and a lot of times people, and one thing that you taught me was people can not assess themselves correctly and they end up product focused instead of customer focused. What's
Yes.
the difference, right? Because again, it on its surface, it may make sense, but
Yes.
what's the biggest difference between customer focused, product focused?
Okay. Great question. Great question. And I love your analogy of, putting that engine and elaborating it. That's why I just love you, Lawrence Anderson. You've got your own way with language. Okay. So on the product centricity side, it's totally the opposite of that, as you can imagine. So Lawrence, primarily there are two different types of business models. So the customer centricity is one, the product centricity is another. Most organizations are product centric, right? You look at the Ford, they defined the way business is done. Almost 85% of organizations are product centric. These are organizations that are obsessed by their products, and they will make their products regardless of the demand. They will innovate a product that they feel is the right product for the organization without referencing the customer, without understanding. And what they do, they take the same product and just make different versions of the same product over and over again. In other words, a product-centric organization really looks at the business from the inside out. Everything around the business focuses on what does it mean at the end of the day for us? It drives the shareholder value versus the customer value versus the stakeholder value. That's what it does. It's obsessed by its own products, it's obsessed by its own outcomes. And you see that in most organizations. Have you ever called an organization, Lawrence, and they tell you, oh, it's not how we do it here, it's our policies, we're not allowed to do that. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, so everything around them is about them. The policies must benefit them, but not necessarily the customer.
Yeah.
That's what we would call a customer centric. So, for an example of that, let me give you an example of
Mm-hmm.
that. Walmart, though it provides great value in terms of pricing, but that's a typical product centric organization. A lot of people think Target is customer centric, as well as they provide great customer experience and customer services in some instance, but they're very product driven. That's where it becomes tricky, Lawrence,
Mm-hmm.
because both product centric and customer centric organizations do deliver some level of customer service and customer experience. The question becomes, who is more consistent at it?
Mm.
The customer centric organization is more consistent at it, and then the
Got it.
product centric is not as consistent.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So, and I know people out there thinking it, so I'm just gonna say it out loud. What about Chick-fil-A? What about Chick-fil-A? Because you could get so Chick-fil-A again, you could have a line down the street, and somehow, some way, they can get you out of that line in 15 minutes. Like, like, is it the fact that they're like, you know what? I'm trying to provide you not only experience, but get you out of here, which can be customer centered. It ain't about the
Mhm.
chicken nuggets.
Yes, yes, yes. And I tend to disappoint people from my own experience
I
because,
love it.
like I said, they are product centric
I
that
ain't gonna lie.
deliver great customer experience.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So it's
Yep.
about their products. It's not necessarily about membership.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really, because another part of customer centricity is that customer centricity believes that not all customers have equal value, Lawrence. They don't have equal value. So there's a segmentation that happens in a customer centric organization. The 20% that the most valued because they bring us value, not only in dollar amounts, Lawrence, in terms of their referrals. Are they advocates? Are they repeat purchasers?
Mm-hmm.
Are they referring other people that are bringing us $20 million? So it's about the customer value in its essence. So in a product centric organization, that's why I shy away from calling Chick-fil-A customer centric. They are more focused, yes, on the experience, but as a whole, as a business engine, they are product centric.
All right. So those of y'all out there that was like not the holy chicken, they customer focused. Now and so it's funny because you threw out a number out there. About 85% of most organizations are product centered.
Mhm.
And of course, in breaking down elementally, there's a facet of them that says because UX is a thing, user experience, customer experience, like there are
Yes.
whole divisions that are dedicated to those things. But help me understand why it's important to understand the delineation and I'll stack this on you. What's the impact of being or shifting to a more customer centered way of engaging?
Okay. First of all, let me give you an example. If we don't shift, we'll become like a BlackBerry. Remember how they were the smartest phone at some point? And then they made a lot of money at that point, great brand, but they could not sustain it. So the product centricity is great. That's why you've got 85% of organizations that are product centric because it is a viable business option. The only question is the sustainability in the long term view because anybody can then duplicate your products and your services, so to speak. So then when it comes to being customer centric, the essence is you want to be in business for the long term. So let me give you an example. Amazon, when they started, they did not make a profit for the first 6 years or so, or even longer. But look at them now. So they forgo the immediate gratification, the immediate gratification to look at the long-term perspective.
Mm.
So if you want to be in business for the long term, you want to really understand the customer and the market trends, where they're going, so to speak,
Yeah.
so that you can predict, you can tell what's going to happen in the future, and you innovate with them in mind. That's the
Mm.
reason you want to be customer centric, that long term view. And if you become customer centric in its true sense, then there is retention, customer retention, customer loyalty, right? Your
Yeah.
customers become your advocates. Look at social media, they will defend your organization because you
Mm.
truly are customer centric. So the long term value for that. And it took, look at how we're doing business now, Lawrence. We're
Mm.
not just driving profits any longer. We're talking about the planet, the effect that we have on the environment, on people.
Mm.
Customer centricity looks at that. It's a triple bottom line. It's just not looking after the organization, but what are we doing to the entire world? And that's where business is going.
Yeah.
And just to justify on the percentage, when I started studying customer centricity, which was about 10 years ago, only 1% of organizations were product or were customer centric. Right now, we are now dipping into the 15%. So
Mm.
you can see where the trend is going, Lawrence.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about particularly something you said there, and right, it's that pausing long enough to not be considering the gratification of a cashed invoice
Mm-hmm.
because you sold something.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally preparing yourself to be innovative and
Yes.
creative
Mm-hmm.
because of the evolving customer need.
Yes.
And I take something, and again, something that happened to all of us at the same time, and
Mm-hmm.
watching an organization pivot like an Amazon. As much
Mm-hmm.
as we hated, like, Amazon packages was popping up on everybody's front porch,
Yes.
and but that preparation happened in their first 6 years,
Yes.
and the things that they were preparing themselves for, and
Mm-hmm.
again, to be a .com, to be a part, whatever it was originally about, but it
Mm-hmm.
intensely moved
Yes.
itself towards being
Mm-hmm.
of service, and
Yes.
in service to people who had a need. And
Yes.
all globally, we
Mm-hmm.
had a need.
Yes.
So much so now that, and it's created this convenience, which is also customer focused, like
Yes.
providing the opportunity of, and I think about how they've merged and purchased companies, the
Yes.
types of companies that they've purchased
Yes.
now further serve
Mm-hmm.
us as customers and
Yes.
how we experience being a consumer. And
Mm-hmm.
and so I think, how does that play out though for people like us who are leadership and organizational development trainers, and we have all of this amazing stuff to deliver to our clients so they can be better for each other? How do we as organizations, as training and development consultants, what
Mm-hmm.
is being customer focused to look like for us?
Oh, wow. Lawrence, before I even answer that question, I want to just say something about Amazon, what you've just
Yeah.
described. Amazon literally changed the culture of how we engage with brands. You don't even want to wait 3 days, 5 days for your package any longer. You want it immediately. So the way that we do business, it changed the economics of doing business. It changed the culture of doing business. It changed the culture of customer expectations. So that's just a whole chapter on its own, Lawrence. But to come back to your question, then how is this relevant for us as consultants, as trainers, developers? We help leaders who are running organizations that are product centric. And then we have this knowledge. This is where we take their hand and support them in looking at the big picture and helping them see that the product centric organization is a traditional way of doing business. It's yesteryear's way of doing work. What do we need to move forward? look at now what's going on. I don't know whether you've had the opportunity to look at one of the reports, McKinsey reports that came out. I think we shared and we talked about it. Look at the tension that's in the economy right now. I call that we're in a place of fogginess and we are lost in the fogginess. That's where you and I will take our leaders and help make sense out of that fogginess so that they can see the clarity. Then we start off by advising them about their strategy, inspiring them to change and to transition their business from a product-centric organization to a customer-centric organization, which takes an outward-looking approach, so to speak. Understanding that it's not a short term, but it's a long term. So you work with leaders who then look at improving their leadership from just general leadership to being customer-centric leadership. All right. We look at the culture, making sure that people in the culture are really focused on the customer. So you can deliver strategy, you can deliver coaching, you can do training around all these elements of how you can become really, truly customer centric.
Yeah, and you just tapped into one of my jams in that culture,
Yes.
and leaders understanding, getting them to see how they've been filtering in the lenses they've been viewing the world through, getting them to remove those glasses
Yes.
to actually say, okay, how do we look at this differently?
Mm-hmm.
It's getting yourself out of saying this is the way we've done it, or falling into the trap of we're successful in spite of ourselves.
Yes.
We're continuing to make money doing it this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the product center way. Like
Yes.
we're still profitable, but
Mm-hmm.
that thing that you just hit on in those reports that are out there now is the really thing around what does a healthy culture look like?
Yes.
And if leaders don't take on the work of looking internally, becoming internally customer focused,
Yes.
so that you can actually give the purpose, vision, direction to the people that you're asking to be outwardly focused,
Yes.
it can't work itself.
Yes.
And so that long-term approach of, do we have the right people on the team
Yes.
serving the organization so that they can serve
Mm-hmm.
the community? And so I think they're in those layers of customer centricity and where leaders need to start. How do you get them on the path? What's the first step to beginning to help them reframe how they've been viewing the way they've been doing business?
Sure. The first place is look at the results. Just look at your results. Are they sustainable for the long term? Look at the market. What's going on in the market? Right now, the market is shaky. Do you want to keep on going on the same path, so to speak? So if you look at the market, who are your competitors? What are they doing differently? Borders and Amazon are a typical example. Yes, you can be Borders 1 minute, but the next minute Amazon has taken over. So how confident are you that the way that you're doing business today is going to sustain you for the next 20 years? If you're not that confident, which should be true for most leaders, that we keep questioning, then we have to look out there and say, what are the other options? That's number one. Number two, I'll look at the customer behavior. Are you actually retaining your customers? Are they your advocates, right? Who are they comparing you with? Are you doing the homework of collecting their voice? Are you surveying them enough? And then once you understand what's maybe the tension, where the tension is, what are you doing about that information, right? Okay. Then we look at you, the leader or the organization. What is the vision that you have out there? Does it even talk about the customer? Does it even talk about the people that you want to attract? To your point, Lawrence, we can't be customer centric if we are not people centric, right? And then we look at the whole engine. So assess the whole engine. Who is it really benefiting? The processes you've put together, the policies you've put together, are they benefiting you or the customer, so to speak? So do that proper assessment. And then once you have that, tap into understanding what customer centricity is and what it is not, so that you're not mistaken. Get into a training class. get somebody to walk the journey with you to understand the nuances of customer centricity.
Yeah.
And another point is that because it's a journey, right, Lawrence,
Hmm.
it's not achieved overnight. So I don't want people to think that one day you're product centric, the next day you're customer centric. It's a journey. It's almost a 3 to 5 years true transformation. So take it in chunks, right? Small chunks. Okay, we're going to revisit our strategy for now, our vision for now, our mission for now. What do we really stand for? Can we reframe that? And then what next do we need to do? So it's a journey, it's not a destination.
Yeah, and here's the funny part, right? It's me and you have these conversations pretty often about how organizations if they could break out the magic wand and things will just reframe overnight and transition into these ideal states.
Mhm.
But you just said it, it's the work that needs to be put in,
Mhm.
and it's looking at the data that already exists.
Yes.
Right. And again, it's almost like I get the picture in my head sometimes when you talk to leaders, when you tell them like, hey, there's a better way, or there's a way that literally communicate you're leaving money on the table.
Hmm.
And it's a customer focused way, a customer centered way. And yeah, one of the leaders out there, just because it works doesn't mean it's a best practice,
Yes.
right? That's that old thing of, as a leader, and I'll
Mhm.
never forget, Simon Sinek said it in a podcast one time. He said, he's like, I don't like the term CEO. He said,
Mhm.
because as CEO, he's like, when's the last time you actually executed anything? He
Mhm.
said, you really should be, in your role as senior leader, is how you described it. They should be a visionary. They should
Mhm.
be the chief visionary officer, not the chief
Yes.
executive officer. It's
Yes.
so you literally are saying to yourself, okay, how do we reinvent ourselves? How do
Mhm.
we continue to evolve and
Yes.
again to stay relevant? And it
Mhm.
really is going to seek the data. What is the
Yes.
data saying? What are our customers saying about
Mhm.
what's important to them? And
Yes.
like you said, if they are not reading the tea leaves of Amazon's profit sheets, it actually says, okay, we want not only convenience, but
Mhm.
we want quality service in the
Yes.
and it's not a this or, it's an
Yes.
and
Yes.
so how do you do that for your business and serve
Mhm.
your customers well? And
Yes.
so, Dr. Mary, this is the tip of the iceberg, because I'm not going to ask her more questions. Y'all just going to have to reach out to her to get coached, to get
Yes.
training. And oh, by the way, I put her LinkedIn in the chat, but Dr. Mary has also created a course on customer centricity. And so I'm going to drop that link. But Dr. Mary, tell them what they get by signing up for this course.
Oh, great, great, great. So this course, Lawrence, I had the privilege of partnering with the University of South Florida and Academia Central. We launched it 2 weeks ago. It's live as we speak. It's really the customer centricity certification program. You get all the nuggets. What is customer centricity? Why is it different from product centric? How is it different? And what are the benefits of that? Just the basic understanding of customer centricity. And then we give you the what I call the 9 pillars of customer centricity, the framework of a customer centric organization. So you'll understand what leadership looks like in a customer centric business, what culture looks like, the product innovation or the service innovations with the customer focus in mind. So it gives you all the bells and the whistles around creating a customer centric organization. One thing I'm really proud about is that we managed to bring in speakers from different countries. So we've got about 27 speakers from different countries in Europe, in Africa, the United States. So it's exciting. It's TED Talk, kind of like talks in in some instances. In other instances, it's like lecture, storytelling. So it's really engaging. And guess what, Lawrence? It's free till you want to get a copy of the certificate itself. But otherwise, you can enjoy 20 hours of content just for free so that you get understanding of what customer centricity is upfront.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I'm signing up like immediately because I don't ever want to be that business owner who is ever in that 85% that I was product focused, that I fell so in love with what I believed I could deliver someone, that I stopped thinking about them
Mhm.
and what they need and why they need it, and begin to build the building blocks to keep them in relationship with my organization and with me as a learning partner. And I really, as you've been describing customer centricity over the time that I've known you, it really is a partnership. You
Mhm.
become a partner with your customer.
Yes.
And so you say, and that's the staying connected piece, is
Mhm.
that there's a partnership in
Yes.
all of our success.
Mhm.
And so you stay, when you stay connected, you stay in the know,
Yes.
and you also get the data points you need to keep moving and
Yes.
keep growing. And
Yes.
so I'm so pumped about all the people that are going to be signing up for this course and getting their certifications. And so I love to see that certificate popping up all over LinkedIn as most popular certificate to be having in your toolkit as a leader. And so, Dr. Mary, I'll put your LinkedIn in the chat as well. Is what other ways can people reach out to you to stay connected with you?
Um, they can go on my website, ourmentorinternational.com. Yeah.
Well, y'all have everything y'all need in the chat. Awesome conversation with Dr. Mary. And of course, y'all out there, if you want to be a guest on Hot Takes with Boss, it might take a couple months because we out here working, supporting our customers, but we'll put you in the queue because you understand it's all about leading with humility, openness, and transparency. So I appreciate y'all who are watching this live, but also definitely appreciate y'all who are going to hit the hashtag replay to listen to all the nuggets Dr. Mary was dropping today. Dr. Mary, any last words before we get out of here?
Yes, thanks again, Lawrence, for having me. And one word to the audience, to the listeners, to the people that are watching is don't be afraid to try something new. We live in a very volatile world right now. It's uncertain right now. There's nothing wrong with trying something new. The old, yes, is tried and tested, but something new, whether it's customer centricity that you want to try, whether it's a new leadership skill that you want to try, we have to be prepared for tomorrow. So thank you so much, Lawrence.
You heard it here first, folks. Be prepared for tomorrow. Until next time, we will see you all later.